Who are all these other right wingers that are like deep good friends with everyone?
Previously, there were discussions about like whether or not even CTV should be platformed, right? I think those are like relatively reasonable.
The problem is there aren't many right wing villains that exist. Like, what right wingers are there to fight with on Twitch now? What? That's crazy. So you're just throwing out the biggest political streamer happens to be a socialist.
It feels like you're sort of taking this really, really personally.
They push themselves out by being fucking insufferable idiots, right? Okay, but I've got a point. Wait a second. I've got a point 7 out here. I've got a point 7 out here, right?
Then fine, you know, be a capitalist or whatever. But like,
wait, hang on. Wait, shut up with that. You're not a capitalist for covering drama. What are you talking about? How the fuck is someone a capitalist for covering drama?
Chill,
what do you mean?
Jesus
no, because you're saying stupid fucking shit.
I mean, this is a wild fucking whataboutism.
There was actual conversation, and there's even more trans streamers now to have their say. Do you think there's less or more trans streamers now on the platform than 2 years ago?
Do I think there's less or more trans on the entirety of Twitch? I think there's more. In this insular piece of Twitch politics, I think there's probably less.
And then it turns out Izzy Bear is on the intake of these charity streams that the Source was doing for her, right? She was pocketing some of the money for Buffalo Wild Wings and ATVs. So what about that?
All right.
Hey, how's it going?
Hello, Chudlogic, if that is indeed your real name.
Hello, MxVivianWulf. How's it going?
I'm alright. I'm a little bit tired. Been a long one.
This is I'm doing this against my wishes. My editors asked me to do this. It's like, hey, it's your boy Chudlogic here. Please subscribe to the channel. We're trying to grow it. If you subscribe to it, click the bell icon or something. Is that what they say? Hit the bell icon or something like that? I don't know. Okay. Yeah, I mean, really, you know, I don't want it to be... well, I'm sure chat wants it to get super vicious, but I just want to understand your position and I guess just lay out what I think about it. Because, I mean, there's obviously... I think you were speaking to Spectre, and you said that you believe this space, like the Twitch politics space, is like more reactionary now?
Yeah, I think so. Than it was like 2 years ago, for sure.
Okay. And then I saw another tweet. Twitch Pol nowadays be like... ACAB, no, fuck you, scum of the earth, terrorist baby eater. And then the next bit says, hi, I'm a pedo, transphobe, racist, literal Nazi. Interesting, you seem like a nice guy, let's talk about that.
Right, yeah. What about it? I mean, it's like quite obviously very hyperbolic, but yeah, kind of feels like the vibe. The vibe's been going like that for a long time, to be fair. Like, yeah. But,
okay. I mean that's
shit much harder on lefties that like step even slightly outside of yeah, like step even slightly towards being more radical or slightly outside of the orthodoxy than people do on like hard right wingers and shit that come onto the platform.
Okay.
Yeah, that's definitely what it feels like.
That's interesting. Is that what you mean when you say it's more reactionary?
I think that's like one aspect of it. Sure.
Yeah. When you say reactionary, like what do you mean? Like what's your sort of definition of that?
I mean, just Google reactionary. I mean, opposition to what reactionary is. To be politically reactionary is to be against progressive policies or progressive politics, right? Sure, particularly those politics which affect the civil rights of marginalized folks generally, right? That's generally how reactionary is sort of used in political discussions. I'm not going for some fucking Stalinist, Leninist, weird ass. They are the counter-revolutionaries interpretation of the word reactionary. I'm not quite that larpy, okay?
Yeah, because I think that like you know, people use reactionary as a stand of like conservative, but my understanding reactionary goes further than that, and it's saying that there's some previous flavor of society that we need to return to. So some reactionaries will, talk about bringing back like more hardline monarchies or even like feudalism in some cases. Well. So yeah, I don't know. I just if you're using it in a more broad sense, that's fine.
I'm using the dictionary definition. I just googled it. Oxford Dictionary: opposing political or social progress or reform.
Okay.
Quote, reactionary attitudes towards women's rights, similar right-wing, conservative, rightist, ultra-conservative, traditionalist, blah blah blah.
So would you say that broadly Twitch politics opposes political, social progress or reform then?
Sorry? I mean, I think it's a lot less. I think it's a lot less conducive towards the advancement of like civil rights of marginalized people. It's far more interested in, debating the minutiae around their basic fucking existence than attempting to promote any kind of attempting to promote those things that would actually fucking help them. That's why we can spend fucking 3-4 weeks on fucking xenogenders, and nobody's like said a goddamn thing about the like the healthcare lawsuits going on in the UK currently.
Okay, I mean, do you think the people in Twitch politics oppose like trans healthcare or trans rights broadly across the platform?
Aspects of it.
Well, no. You say aspects of it. You've made the claim that like Twitch politics as a whole is like more reactionary, right? Not just aspects of it.
What? No, I said aspects of. I mean, sorry, no. If you want me to say every single person in this space has become less progressive in their views, like obviously that's not what I'm fucking saying, right?
Well, no, it's not. No, hang on, wait. It's not obvious because that's not what you said. What you said was Twitch politics is reactionary. Twitch Pol be like ACAB, fuck off, pedos, Nazis, yes please. Like, you have framed it as if the entirety of Twitch politics or the majority of it is somehow this like massive reactionary force for reversing societal change, and I just think that's bullshit. Basically, to put my cards on the table.
It would be bullshit if I'd ever said it.
What? These are your words. What do you mean?
I said Twitch Pol has become more reactionary, and I think that's true. What?
Well, what I'm saying to you is, I don't think that's the case. I think that.
Well, sorry, not if you interpret it in the way that you just did. We're friends, right?
Okay.
We can do this civilly without ridiculous hyperbolic bad faith interpretations. We can, if you want to know what I think, you can literally just ask me. I'm right in front of you. You don't have to interpret these silly fucking extrapolations of what I've said. You can just go, "Hey Viv, what do you mean by that?"
Okay, right? let's cut the hyperbole then. What is it you're concerned about, or what is it you've seen?
What is it I've seen? So over the time that I've been in Twitch politics, I've seen a slow move away from the some of the positions of not having certain people or people of a certain bent on people's shows, right? That's a starter. I know when Dylan Burns started, he said, "I'll never have anybody like Nick Fuentes or whatever on my show." Then he's talking to like JF Garriepi and shit. Like, these two people aren't too far removed from each other at all. There was no strong opposition as far as I'm aware from Dylan on like Lawrence Southern joining the space. Lance from Surfs, also very progressive. Somebody I actually like, right? I'm not trying to shit on... I like Dylan too. I'm not trying to shit on either of these people. But just sort of noting the general trend. Lance said very much the same thing when the Surfs started up. They also had conversations with JF Garriepi. I think he did have a conversation with Lawrence Southern, if I'm right. Can't remember. So that's sort of one example. I think the way and the manner in which certain topics are handled. I mean, the xenogender discourse was a really good fucking example. The Kink of Pride discourse was another really good fucking example. Just broadly less conducive to facilitating healthy conversations about like marginalized identities and far more interested in drumming up controversy around them. Yeah, and I think it it slowly got worse following. I think there was all that black nationalism shit a couple of years ago, right? Was it a year and a half ago or so? That was the point at which I was like, right, like this sort of general slippage is translating into some really toxic fucking conversations. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that, like, what I'd say to that is, I don't know if like certain conversations happening and certain people being platformed is indicative of a space becoming more reactionary. I think the way I look at it is like Twitch is more like a tabloid space, right? So, drama and spicy conversations stuff like that tend to rise to the top in the space. But also, I guess this is the other thing we maybe, yeah, okay. And I guess the other thing that we kind of disagree on maybe is like the reason that I now am very skeptical about a lot of these platforming arguments is I've been on this platform for 2 years. And whilst I admit there's been some conversations that like, I would be like a bit uncomfortable to have myself. I think we can get to that. There's some things that I think I've got some nuanced opinions on, but I think that like I've not really seen like this so-called harm that's been caused by like having Lauren Southern on. Like Lauren Southern has been on the platform for like 5 or 6 months now. Where is all of this harm supposed to be of having her on? I don't understand.
I mean, do you want to talk specifically about Lauren Southern? Or do you want to talk about the Twitch space becoming more reactionary? Because like, I've pretty much said all I can say on Lauren Southern. I think the idea that like the more reactionary figures you let into the space, the more their audiences come in, the more it changes the character of the community. I don't think that's a particularly controversial statement.
Well, it is to me, because I don't think that you can really meaningfully substantiate that.
What with facts, figures, and data? I mean, I think
what facts, figures, and data have you got then?
What? No, that's literally what I'm saying, right? I think we'd probably have to do some kind of like broad survey of Twitch Pol and chats and try and work out like try and distinguish sort of because the way they did it with things like do you remember when they banned a couple of those subreddits, right? They banned was it fat people shaming and I think it was something to do with black folks. I can't remember what it was, but I'm pretty sure it had a slur in it as well. But like when they banned those, and there were a couple of studies done on the general effect on Reddit, and they identified like certain phrases that were.
Yeah, Reddit's not Twitch though. Reddit's a very different ecosystem to Twitch. I don't think you can apply analysis from Reddit onto Twitch. People do this as well with YouTube. YouTube has got a very different algorithm and works in a very different way to Twitch, and people trying to map it on. And I don't really think that works. Obviously, I've not done a significant.
Well, I was talking about the methodology, right? I was saying like how you would go about like proving this.
Sure.
I don't think there's been any broad studies done on Twitch. Yeah. That's so like
sure.
So like if you're looking for me to post you fucking data and studies, like I don't think they exist.
Well, I would say that like if the way I look at it is if you look at the communities that are growing on the platform, it's liberals, soc dems, progressives, Wicked Supreme, Gappy V, James from the internet who's like an anarchist, others as well.
How well is James doing?
Good. I think he's partnered now, so we've got partnership, and I think he's about 100 viewers on average now. So, I think that it's actually progressive streamers and communities that are growing. And if you look at channels like, The Crucible and Politically Provoked, they're like 8-7 viewer Andys on this platform. Like they're not getting any traction. And in fact, there aren't really any conservatives, let alone far-right people that are getting any traction on this platform. It does seem to be more progressive people that are having growing audiences.
I mean, yeah, and about 2 years ago, it was like some pretty fucking solid left-wing people. Like the idea that there hasn't been a shift against sort of like socialists and people on the more left end of the spectrum. Like I think that would be hard for you to substantiate. Like I think we saw this reaction immediately after like Trump's election, right?
Hang on, wait, sorry,
Actually,
no, wait, I need to shout, no,
Bernie
stop,
update.
sorry, you just said, I would have to prove that there hasn't been something against socialists. I can't substantiate a negative, so I can't do that, right? What I would say to you is that Hasan Piker is the biggest political streamer on the platform, and he's a socialist. Vosh is
Hasan Piker's been fucking huge for ages. Hasan Piker was huge 2 years ago, and he's huge now. And like most of what he does is fucking entertainment. Like I don't think we can use Hasan Piker as like a measuring stick at all.
What? That's fucking crazy. So you're just throwing out the biggest political streamer happens to be a socialist. So we can't include him at all in any of this analysis.
Of course, I mean, you can include him in the analysis if you want, right? Like how much?
Well, I think we've got to, right?
How much leftist? Okay, calm down. How much leftist rhetoric is like Hasan putting out there compared to what he did like a couple of years ago? It's a lot more entertainment-y now, isn't he?
I mean, yeah, he does entertainment content, but like he still has got very progressive views, and
Of course he does.
Yeah, right. And I still think he has like an outspoken support for like trans rights and progressive. So that my point is the idea that this space is like more reactionary is, the fact that Hasan, who's got these progressive views and he does want to move society forward, would work against that surely. But you just want to dismiss him because he watches Gordon Ramsay streams sometimes. Like he still does news content and he still debunks like right wing stuff.
Yeah, he does.
Right. But you still think this space is like I think that what it is there's some little bits and pieces here where there's shitty things going on. So one example of this is when Lauren Southern went on Politically Provoked and had the debate about the trans thing. We're both talking about trans people are mentally ill, right? Now,
yeah, that was pretty garbage.
But my point is that the TOS in itself works as a way of ensuring that the space is kept at least somewhat progressive, because the TOS is itself, like the hateful conduct and harassment policy, is very progressive, and that they were banned for that. They got banned for that. So even the TOS acts as a means to help keep the safe, not revert back to like having these kind of discussions.
So you're absolutely correct that there's like a hard barrier as to like just how fucked Twitch can get, right? Like, unless Twitch significantly changes its rules, like, it's going to be very, very difficult to have fucking Heil Hitler 1488 motherfuckers on here, right? That shit's probably not going to happen. But I think that there is a substantial difference in the character of the conversations that I had, the character of the
so it's just a vibe. It's just a vibe we're talking about, basically.
I wouldn't put it down to just a vibe. Between now and like a couple of years ago, right? I think the community is also a lot more fractured and a lot more focused on interpersonal fucking drama bullshit.
Yeah, but that's not reaction. That's not reactionary, is it? That's not like a reactionary thing.
No, it's not. But it does. Facilitate. It does facilitate more contentious conversations and people taking more extreme positions. And people taking positions simply to spite other people. It seems like on occasion.
What sort of things are you thinking of there?
I mean, we could definitely see some of the fucking weird trend between sort of like Destiny, RGR, Demonmama, Vosh, like that sort of those people coming into conflict with each other, and then the people on the outskirts trying to push ever further sort of away from each other. That puts them to more and more extreme positions. And I would say, the ones that are on the progressive side getting more extreme, I don't give a shit about. The ones that are sort of against the more progressive positions, that does seem like an issue.
Okay, so if you say you don't care about the progressive side getting more extreme, do you not think that on the progressive side of things... I
think the progressive side should get more extreme, like generally.
Right, okay. Yeah. But do you not think that there's a potential... I mean, when we say extreme, like, if it's extreme as in healthcare for everyone, fine. But if it's extreme as in we should Roblox every single capitalist, like, I'm not really down with that, right?
Yeah, we probably shouldn't murder every single capitalist.
Right, but you said you don't care if the progressive side gets more extreme. But if the progressive side or the socialist side or whatever moves
and the
towards
hardline barrier that exists for the 1488 fuckers obviously exists for the progressive people as well.
Right, okay.
That's why you had all that shit with the C-word discourse, right? Like, you're not going to have people sitting on this platform saying, hey, we should just murder all the fucking rich people. Like, Twitch TOS would fuck them just as hard as it would the 1488 people.
And rightly so, right? Like, I don't think we should be promoting that kind of rhetoric. Or we should at least care about it if people do it and say you shouldn't say that, surely.
Yeah, you shouldn't commit mass murder. That's pretty shit.
But hang on, you said you don't care about that. You said you don't care if people get to that extreme on the other side.
I said I don't care about the progressive side getting more extreme because, like we just said, right? The extremes that they would go to that I would disagree with are already sort of prevented by Twitch TOS.
Whereas, that's the same for the Nazi stuff as well. Like, Nazis can't come on and say we should Roblox all minorities; they get banned.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
right?
So we shouldn't care about it equally then, if in that case, surely.
I don't understand what you mean.
Well, you said you don't. What I took, but correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, maybe I'm misunderstanding, but you said you don't care about the progressive side getting more extreme. You said what I understood from that is you care about like the right wing getting more extreme. And then when I've talked to you about it, you said, well, there's TOS that will prevent the progressive side from getting too extreme, so that's why you don't care about it. And I'm saying to you, well, that applies to the far right as well. The far right can only go to certain levels before they start getting banned, as evidenced by this debate for the trans thing that was had, where people got banned or suspended for a period of time for that. So my point is that it seems like there's a TOS has some measure in affecting this stuff to make it so that the conversation doesn't get too extreme. So if that's the case,
correct. So we're quite obviously talking about things in an arena where openly advocating for mass murder is off the table. Like, I didn't think that needed to be said, but.
Well, no. When you say like you don't care about the progressive side getting more extreme,
do you think you need to be advocating for mass murder to be getting more reactionary than we were 2 years ago on Twitch?
Well, no. I'm just trying to understand. No.
Do you think we were so close to that like getting any more reactionary would be advocating for mass murder?
Well, I'm just trying to understand, like, where you are. If you're saying, like, I don't care about the progressive side getting more extreme, like I said to you, does that mean if people want more healthcare or whatever, or does it mean even more extreme than that? And it seems like, no, you are quite certain that, on the progressive side, even though there's a cut-off in TOS, you are somewhat concerned with, well, I don't actually understand. You're saying TOS would cut it off in terms of if someone was advocating for mass murder of rich people. But you don't support that, do you?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Just to be clear.
Yeah, for like maybe the third or fourth or fifth time. Yeah, obviously. I'm
sure, and that's fine.
I'm pretty anti-mass murder.
But,
I'm not a big fan of mass murder.
But you would speak out against that rhetoric and be like, "That's too far. We shouldn't be saying that."
Yeah, if I thought people were seriously advocating for like committing mass murder. Yeah.
That's fine. Because obviously, I would say the same. Like, if someone was, I'm saying it on that side, I'd say that's too far, that's ridiculous. If a Nazi was advocating for mass murder, that's someone I'd speak out against as well. I wouldn't just rely on the TOS to be like, well, they're going to get banned anyway. If someone was actually advocating for that, it's someone I would criticize. It seems like you're on the same boat as me, so that's fine. Okay?
Yeah, cool. I'm glad we established that.
Great. Okay. You understand, but you understand the reason I was confused is you said on the progressive side, if they got more extreme, I don't care, right? I wasn't trying to. I just wanted to understand what you meant by that, and now I understand.
Okay. Yeah? So we've got a very simplistic and totally unnuanced scale right here. Okay. In the middle, you've got don't really give a fuck about marginalized communities one way or the other, right? Not too bothered, not going to be a cunt to people, not interested in advocating for their civil rights in any meaningful way, right? That's your middle right there. And then it's bookended, right? It's cut off
Yeah.
Where you go, I'm advocating for mass murder against some group or other, rich people, marginalized people on either side, right? We can't go that far inside of Twitch, right?
Sure.
So everything inside of that, everything inside of TOS, right, would be something that I would have to make an analysis of, right?
Sure.
So I'm not particularly worried that the left can get so extreme within Twitch TOS that I'm going to be like super, super fucking upset about what they might say.
Sure.
Like,
okay.
Maybe they can say some things that I really fucking disagree with, right?
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of like violent revolution. I think that probably is edging on TOS for sure. But if it falls within TOS, I'm going to say, yeah, I think, advocating for violent revolution, very fucking silly, right? And even if you think that it's moral, it'd be completely fucking unsuccessful anyway, right? It's both dumb and immoral. Like, it won't work and it will just cause a lot of pain. So not on board with that. So everything else, like in the middle, we can do an analysis of, right? And I would say that a couple of years ago, we were quite a bit further left on the scale of like advocating for the rights of marginalized people, trying to make sure that they felt comfortable in people's communities, aggressively policing bigotry, refusing to platform people who were advocating for really bigoted positions, all that sort of stuff, right? And I would say now we're like a little bit less than that, right? We've become more reactionary because we're less further towards advocating for the civil rights of marginalized people. We're much more interested in these stupid fucking interpersonal dramas that quite often end up bringing up some really shitty, bigoted opinions that are then pushed really fucking hard. And certain individuals of like marginalized status have received huge amounts of abuse and harassment because of that. I could say Kay Swiftly, Professor Flowers, Demonmama, fucking whatever, right? People who are like more on the progressive side that are just that receive sort of levels of harassment and attacks that I just don't think would have been possible a couple of years ago, because their views wouldn't have been so far out of the reach, even if sometimes they are pretty poorly phrased.
Right. I mean, maybe there's just a disagreement over like the definition of the word reactionary or something. I don't know, because to
so
me,
I didn't say it was a reactionary space, right?
Right.
What I said was it's becoming more reactionary, and I would worry that it would completely become a reactionary space, right? Obviously, if that's the trajectory, then eventually you could end up with an overwhelmingly reactionary space, and that's not something that I would like to see. But it's also not something that I think I have any significant fucking control over. I think you might have heard my tone in the conversation with Spectre. I'm not super like I've spent a long time pushing back against like the platforming stuff and just slowly, from my point of view at least, just seeing things get worse and worse, and I'm not super interested in fighting that fight anymore. I don't think there's enough people around who care about it that much, and the people who did care about it have been sort of ostracized and pushed out one way or another.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I understand where you're coming from in terms of like, I guess the way I see it is that, there's always going to be kind of like villains in the space, and I'd say 4 or 5 years ago, it was more so on YouTube. Twitch politics really has come into its own more so over the past couple of years, I guess.
It's become very insular, I think.
But I think
that's
the thing
a problem
is
that you should all be worried about.
The problem is there aren't many right-wing villains that exist. Like, what right-wingers are there to fight with on Twitch now? Most of them have been banned, suspended, and stuff like that, right? So
CTV has a whole fucking panel of them, like, on the reg. Like, there's enough to shit on, like, pretty regularly. Problem is, there's a whole load of content creators who really, really need them to come onto their various panels and whatnot. and so they want to keep sort of like healthy business relationships with them.
But wait, but you're saying we should. But the problem is it more so not you? You and others who are saying we can't platform these people. I was, for example, I myself was where I don't give a shit anymore, but I was always worried about platforming CTV because I get criticised for platforming a right winger, like. Yeah. So how am I supposed to, if that was the perception?
It's wild how that was the standard as well, right? Like people were genuinely having conversations around like whether or not it was a good idea to platform CTV. I mean, he said some pretty garbage.
Yeah, but wait a second. Rhetoric. You see the problem though,
and
right?
Now that's not really an argument, is it?
Like, yeah, but you see the problem. It's like right, we can't. No, wait. Listen, I'm sorry. We can't platform right wingers, so we're like, okay, we're not going to platform the right wingers. We need to find content to make somehow, so we start fighting with each other about left wing shit, right? And there's this hardline approach of not platforming right wingers. Is it any surprise that we're not fighting right wingers anymore when it's people like you that have said we shouldn't be platforming them?
But you are
when they were like CTV level.
Them. I mean, you literally are platforming them though. Like, I can't remember making an argument that we shouldn't platform CTV. I think, I haven't really paid a huge amount of attention to CTV. He's like a dipshit fucking libertarian right dude, right? Like, I don't super care about that shit. Yeah, I think, like, I remember there was some vague fucking transphobia arc with him, and during that period, I think, like, maybe some questions should have been had about, like, trying to address the rhetoric or whatever and work out, like...
I'm confused because you're saying we shouldn't platform right-wingers, but then also, out the other side of your mouth, you're saying we need to...
platform right-wingers. I don't recall saying that at all.
Okay. Well, but okay, so what? Okay, because I just feel like you're saying, my understanding, and if I'm wrong, correct me by all means, but you're saying we shouldn't platform right wingers, and then you're complaining because people aren't pushing back on what right wingers are saying on the platform.
You complained about not having any right wingers to push back on, and I pointed out that actually there's a shit ton of fucking right wingers on this platform. The problem is that a lot of lefty content creators like want to keep like cordial relationships with these people and don't want to shit on them too hard, whereas they know they can fucking go hammer and tongs on the left because like most of the left-leaning people just be around for quite a while, and right. If there's and if some of them drop out or whatever, then like it's not a huge deal to people, right? But if you lose CTV, like fuck me, that's a huge source of content. Where are you going to get another lol cow like that, right? If you're fucking Dylan Burns or whatever. So you want to keep those relationships kind of there and tight. And that's one thing, right? That I think like affects people's sort of like, affects people on like how hard they go on the right versus how hard they go on the left and so on, right?
I mean, yeah, but like a lot of the right wingers that used to be contentious and stuff, that people
they're just friends now. Yeah, they're just friends now.
Okay, I can think of like CTV, like maybe like American Nacho. Like who are all these other right wingers that are like good friends with everyone?
I mean, if you want me to reel off a list of maybe I could just like post you a list of right wingers.
Well, no, I just don't know who you're talking about. That's my problem. Like, I know there's a couple of like rightoids that are friendly with like Dylan. But this narrative that there's like all these right wingers and they're all friendly with everyone now, I don't really understand that. And also, like, I feel like when rightoids and leftoids go at each other on panels, they do have quite contentious discussions. Admittedly, I don't watch all of them, but your average Dylan Burns panel, or it is still hostile, right versus left. The average Prime Kai panel, again, generally is still kind of quite hostile. No, if there's right.
Yeah, it's still quite hostile. Right versus left.
So people are pushing back against right.
I'm there like half the time.
Oh, right, okay.
But sure. Yeah, I mean, I think this just kind of like proves my point there. I mean, you're saying like previously there were discussions about like whether or not even CTV should be platformed, right? I think those are like relatively reasonable conversations to have after he's spouted some transphobic bullshit on one of Dylan's panels, right? I think like at that point you go, do we want this guy like in our community on our panels and shit anymore? If there's decisions, ultimately yes. I mean, I don't really care. I think like CTV's relatively milquetoast libertarian. But like, that's the point at which like I'm like, yeah, sure. Those are the conversations. You know, I don't think there should even be a conversation about like, oh, do we have a nice sit down and a beer and a chat with Lauren Southern or fucking JF Gary Epi? Like, I don't think that those are, you know, there shouldn't even be a conversation about that. And there wouldn't have been 2 years ago, which, like I said, proves my point, right? There wouldn't have been a conversation about it. It would have just been, nah, fuck that. Like, fuck those people. I don't want anything to do with them.
But hang on, right? but you're also saying there's too much like lefty infighting from the sounds of it. Like, but then you're also saying that you would.
It's mostly libs shitting on the sort of like hard left, and then there's some lefty content creators that like see where the discourse is, right? We were saying about like Twitch being an insular community earlier, right? Because you're right, you got your start shitting on fucking randomers on YouTube, right? Like pulling up who's that little dipshit who did the heck off commie meme?
Yeah.
And fucking I don't know, fucking toilet bowl headed doomcock and all that shit, right? Like, you pick random fucking YouTube videos, shit on some people or whatever. That content got stale for a lot of content creators. They got kind of bored of doing it, and I understand why.
I mean, you know, there's only so many times you can bring up a right winger and be, oh, this guy's stupid, right? Like, it gets a bit dull after a time, and people kind of tune out. And like I even said the other day, I'd be happy to like argue with right wingers, you know. But my concern is I just feel like what you're saying is a bit incoherent, because on the one hand you're saying, well, you know, the conversation about whether CTV should be platformed or not is valid. But then on the other hand, you're saying, oh, I wish people would fight with right wingers more. But those seem a bit incoherent, no?
I'm not saying I wish people would fight with right wingers more. Me saying, sorry about that. Just grabbing my water. I didn't expect it to crackle like that.
That's okay.
Me saying, I think like people going really fucking hard on like left-wing people and especially marginalized people in the space, I'd rather they didn't do that. It's not the same as me saying, oh, I wish they'd be bringing right wingers on to fight with them more. Like, I think yeah, I mean,
well, okay, well, in your ideal world, what content would you want people to make, I guess, is the point here.
I mean, honestly, I liked the matter of just like taking YouTube videos and shitting on people. But you are right, that stuff gets it gets stale. I think it gets stale for the content creators. I don't know if it gets stale for the viewers, but I do know that drama does fucking bring in more viewers, right? And Twitch being so insular has its own little fucking soap opera thing going on. And if you're not talking about the drama of the day, you're passing up some of the potential viewers that you could have from what is ultimately like kind of a fairly small viewership base, right? Like, I don't know, maybe like obviously Destiny and Hasan and the really big streamers Vosh like bring in people from all sorts of places. But I feel like the rest of the sort of politics streamers are probably fighting over the same maybe 5,000 to 10,000 people, of which like maybe 2,000 or 3,000 are like really regular users, right? So it's quite small. So if you're not doing a stream about Mr. Gal, or if you're not doing a stream about the xenogender discourse, or if you're not doing, you know, you're passing up on that core viewership that is interested in following these different drama arcs. And those drama arcs, I think, have become steadily more toxic and reactionary for sure.
Right. I mean, I just think it sounds like your problem is that people cover drama now more, which is fine. That's a valid critique, but it's like that's what gets the views. You know. So, yeah, your problem is Twitch is a platform more so than individuals taking certain actions. It seems.
Well, I mean, it's down to the content creators to like push the kind of shit that that they want to.
Doesn't work like that. Nope, doesn't work like that.
I mean, if you're saying I'm going to throw up my hands and absolve myself of all responsibility and only cover that which gets me the most views, then fine, you know, be a capitalist or whatever. But like,
wait,
if I'm
hang on,
that...
wait, shut up with that shit. You're not a capitalist
What?
for covering drama. What are you talking about? How the fuck is someone a capitalist for covering
fuck's
drama?
Sake, chill.
What do you mean?
Jesus
No, because you're saying
Christ.
stupid fucking shit. Well, that's not being a capitalist, is it?
Okay,
capitalist means you possess capital
game,
and people sell you their labour and you take the excess value. That's not what capitalist is it?
What? Chud.
Yeah, but you're fucking... Listen,
saying,
I see what's happening. You're
Chud,
trying to throw a bit of shade. I'm not having it. I'm not fucking having it. No. You fucking are making out it's a capitalist thing.
Okay, whatever. I'll let you go on your fucking rant, and then I'll...
No, it's fine. I just want to correct the record. Okay, well, go on. What do you mean by that?
What do I mean by that? I mean, you exist here. You need to make some fucking money, so you have to play the capitalist game, obviously, right? This wasn't like a personal slur towards you or whatever.
It's called.
Right?
It's reacting to it's reacting to systemic. It's reacting to systemic incentives that exist, right? To do what you need to do to make money on a platform. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So there are certain pressures, right, which push you towards doing certain things. Okay, and you can throw your heads. You can throw your hands up and say, "I will literally just do what market forces demand of me." Right.
Yeah, I need to pay my bills. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because I need to pay my bills or whatever, and that would be one way of going about things.
What other way is there if you need to make money on Twitch?
I mean, there are other people who don't like engage themselves in the ridiculous drama all the fucking time, who have built up their own fucking platforms without relying on this particularly insular fucking community. You could look at, I mean, shit, Riverboat Jack's a pretty good example. She managed to keep herself pretty fucking separate. She's up in the hundreds of viewers every fucking night. She's managed to push herself up there whilst barely being involved in any fucking drama, right? But it is difficult. Of course, it's difficult.
You know, I like Riverboat Jack, and I think Riverboat Jack is a great content creator.
Yeah, I think she's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess
it is way harder that way, Heen. Yeah, it is. I agree.
But the issue, the thing is, I don't know Riverboat Jack's financial circumstances, right? I don't want to comment on it or make it seem like I'm denigrating her for what she's doing. I think she's doing great work. Fair play to her, right? But like me myself, I know the kind of money that I was making when I was like 75, 100 viewers, and it wasn't enough to like sustain an income, right? So I don't know exactly what Riverboat Jack's financial situation is. I can't comment on it too much, so I don't want to go that deep into it. But I guess I kind of was thinking more so people who have got a viewership where you'd normally see someone making an income out of it, like 200, 300 viewers, 400 viewers plus. And I just feel like if you do avoid the drama, that's fine. You're entitled to do that. But I don't know if on this platform, in the Twitch politics space, you're going to be able to earn enough of a crust to actually make a living out of doing this.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. So,
right. So yeah. Sorry, go
on. So I mean, this still doesn't really contradict my claim that like Twitch politics is becoming more reactionary. What you're saying is right that it may be becoming more reactionary, but what am I supposed to do about it?
Well, I don't agree it's becoming reactionary. I think people are pivoting. I admit I've pivoted to covering drama and stuff more, but that's because that's what gets the viewers. And the more viewers has, the more money I make. And I rely on this for my income, so I have to do that. You know, and I enjoy doing it. Don't get me wrong. Okay. But, you know, if I went...
the drama consistently has a reactionary bent.
Like, I mean... Yeah, but I stand against the reactionary bent of it myself. Like, obviously, you know... In the xenogender discourse, I said I think even though you should respect what people's pronouns are. Like I was very much against the whatever reactionary bent there was there. So I think it kind of depends on who the content creator is. You know.
Yeah. So I don't. It feels like you're sort of taking this really, really personally. And
Well, no. The reason, no. I know you're not directing it at me,
right.
but I just think this idea that it's a reactionary space. I mean, it depends who the content creator is, and also each content creator could have a position which is a bit more, reactionary in a colloquial way, and then other times they'll have more progressive positions on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this isn't like this analysis isn't like a critique of individual fucking creators.
Right.
It's talking about the character of the conversations that we have overall on the platform, over the course of like the past 2 years, and how they incorporate and tolerate positions which would have been relatively intolerable like a couple of years ago. And I don't think that that's like. I don't think the xenogender discourse would have been anywhere near as successful had the groundwork not been laid for it over the last couple of years, for example.
I mean, isn't the fact that the conversation about xenogenders is at least tolerated evidence that we are moving towards a position where it is less reactionary? Because if 2 years ago we couldn't have even had a conversation about xenogenders,
yeah, 2 years ago it would have just been like, yeah, sure, whatever their pronouns are, like respect them and blah, and nobody would have like batted an eye. Like,
I don't know about that. I think the reaction would have been more like antagonistic towards the concept. I think we've come a long way even in 2 years. The fact that
I fucking completely disagree. I'm sorry. I mean, I was here 2 years ago taking part in all the fucking charity streams we had for like Trans Lifeline and shit. We were very much sort of like, as far as the internet goes, like pretty much at the forefront of the conversation about trans rights and promoting them in a way that like you wouldn't see on YouTube or any other fucking platform.
I think 2 years ago most people would have gone, that's really cringe, and that would have been it. But there was actual conversation, and there's even more trans streamers now to have their say. Do you think there's less or more trans streamers now on the platform than 2 years ago?
Do I think there's less or more trans on the entirety of Twitch? I think there's more. Okay. In this insular piece of Twitch politics, I think there's probably less. Yeah, overall, I can definitely think of a whole bunch that have like just fucked off, just left the area, right? Like I don't know. So when you think of trans streamers in Twitch politics, who are you thinking of?
I mean, is it Poly Person or something?
Poly's a relatively new one that's turned up.
Riverboat Jack. I mean, Demonmama's platform has grown enormously. I appreciate she's got a lot of shit. Obviously, she's a friend of mine. I know she's got a lot of shit, but her platform has grown enormously, and she is a very strong advocate of
So you got one, you got one fairly big one that has remained here for those 2 years, and that's good. I'm glad she didn't leave. I think her voice is important. You've got Polly, who literally just started streaming. She's doing fairly well, and that's cool. I wish her all the best. And you got Riverboat Jack, who I would say is extremely tertiary to this particularly insular Twitch politics space. I don't know if I would include her because she doesn't take part in a lot of those conversations that
Wait a second. About. So did Riverboat Jack not weigh in at all on the xenogender discourse then?
I imagine she did. I don't know. I didn't.
Well, I thought we were talking about xenogenders and the idea as to whether it would be more accepted 2 years ago or now. And if Riverboat Jack weighed in, presumably supportive of xenogender stuff, then that would support my point that actually
so
now
we're three.
Okay, I mean Josie Rose. Is another kind of fairly prominent streamer, I think, a trans streamer.
Josie Rose. Never heard of them.
Right. Okay. The basic point I'm trying to make is I think that because there are more trans streamers now than there were 2 years ago in the politics space, I think that the conversation about xenogenders had more people, more streamers coming out supporting it than they would have done 2 years ago. I think 2 years ago, if it had happened, particularly as there were more right-wingers back then, I think the conversation would have been more dismissive initially than it was recently. Were there some people pushing back against it? Sure. But I think it would have been worse 2 years ago. Like, harder for that conversation to happen.
I think 2 years ago the left-wing space was sort of pretty much dominated by a few sort of extraordinarily pro-trans rights streamers. So I don't know if that's the case. Yeah, I mean, Irrelevant hadn't had Irrelevant even started streaming 2 years ago. A lot of the sort of more center lefty type people just went around, and it was sort of Destiny, and then fucking, I don't know, Lance and the Surfs and stuff were just starting up. You had Izzy Bear, you had, like I said, all the fucking charity streams were doing and stuff. Like,
I mean, Izzy Bear's a piece of shit, though, it turned out, right?
I mean, with the whole fucking, what was it, like the unicorny
yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, her leaving Twitch is probably a positive outcome on trans people, all things considered.
Yeah, sure. I mean, probably overall.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, there are voices now who are more willing to speak up about xenogenders, and you know, the fact that, like, I'm really proud of Demonmama. I think Demonmama's done fantastic. I know there's people in this chat that probably hate her, but I don't fucking care, you fucking nerds. Demonmama's fucking based, okay? And I think that she is a very prominent voice who speaks out in a very pro-trans way. So it's all very well looking at the totality of trans streamers, but the fact that Demonmama's been able to grow her platform to the level she has, you know, speaks to this too.
With the insane amount of hostility that she has. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. And I obviously, you know, stand against that.
People are beyond fucking deranged when it comes to her. Like, she can be obnoxious in debates for sure. Mm-hmm. I don't actually like debating Demonmama because she just the first time we had a fucking debate, I don't know, man. I felt like it was just extremely, what would I say? I don't know. I felt like she was taking it off in fucking crazy random directions that just, like, I wasn't even trying to fucking say that, and you're, like, arguing against it for, like, half an hour or whatever. Really frustrated the shit out of me, and I was just like, I can't be fucking bothered. But I think she's pretty consistently been on the right side of, like, most issues that I can think of. I think she might have taken it a little bit far on the schooling thing, but other than that, like, I can't think of an issue where I'm like, damn, Demonmama was like completely on the wrong fucking side of that and said some crazy heinous shit.
I don't mean to like answer a question with a question, but what it feels like right now is that you are attempting to justify your own existence.
Like, I don't know, maybe you can. I imagine some people in the audience can, because, you know, hatred for Demonmama's pretty much like, yeah, it's something that is extremely common. But I think she's a really pretty decent person overall.
Sure. So yeah, I guess, you know, maybe we just don't see it the same way in terms of like whether the xenogender discourse would have been different like 2 years ago or not.
Sure.
But yeah,
I think it definitely would have been. I just don't think it would have happened. I just don't think there would be a market for it. That's what I mean. I don't think there would have been a market for the opposing sort of opinion that, like, oh no, these people aren't real trans people and we shouldn't respect their pronouns.
I think 2 years
I don't think
ago
there would be any market for that in the Twitch politics space.
Sure, but I think 2 years ago there was even a struggle to get like the very base concept of trans rights and stuff accepted, and you know, I appreciate.
What are you talking about? No, we had fucking. That was literally in the wake of the era of the fucking Donkey Kong 64 stream that put fucking Twitch politics on the map. That was literally about trans rights in opposing fucking Graham Linehan's.
And that brought about a change in perspective, right? So that it came to the point where trans rights were like a lot more accepted, right?
Yeah, that was like 3 years ago now, the Donkey Kong stream, right? So, like, 2 years ago, we're living in the fucking wake of that. We're having constant fucking streams about trans rights. We're having fucking constant
and that led to a like culture change. That's what I'm saying. So now we're in a position where the basic rights of
we need to start going backwards. So let
me finish. Okay, what I'm saying is we live in a position now where the you know, even conservatives now have, like, even if they've got shit views in some ways, broadly speaking, I think most conservatives, especially ones that go on panels, have an acceptance of binary trans people at the very least. You know, and that wasn't the case 2 years ago.
Did you ever watch the Big Brain Podcasts thing before fucking...
What about the trans athletes?
Before the N-word arc?
What the trend?
No. I just mean, did you ever watch like the Big Brain podcasts, like
Yeah.
N-word arc?
Yeah, I vaguely remember. I wasn't streaming.
Yeah.
Them,
How many conservative? Like, what was the most conservative you saw on there? I think that was like the example of like early Twitch politics panels, right? Like, what do you think were the most like extreme positions you saw taken on that panel? Do you think they were as extreme as the most extreme positions that you see taken on panels nowadays, or do you think they were like less extreme? Do you think they're, yeah?
I mean, I don't know. I can't really speak to that, but I mean, were them what when I look back at those Big Brain podcasts that Mindwaves hosted, wasn't it normally more liberals and lefties that were fighting back then? Were there many conservatives that even went on?
I don't know why Mr. Geek's in fucking chat saying, give me something that happened in the last 2 years. I'm literally trying to establish the state of what Twitch politics was like 2 years ago so we can compare and contrast it with today. Obviously, I'm not going to be giving you stuff from fucking 6 months ago in order to make that point. Okay, follow along. Fuck me. Sorry.
That's okay, don't worry about it. It's ignore Mr. Geek. In fact, ignore chat completely. But yeah, I mean, I think, what I'd say is like, if you look back, to like Destiny arguing with conservatives and stuff, a lot of it was baseline, like, trans, very even anti like binary trans people. But now we live in an age where binary trans people are broadly accepted in the Twitch community, and so we go on to more niche discourse. I mean, non-binary people still aren't quite as accepted, but they are more so than 2 years ago, I'd say. So now we do end up with xenogender discourse. The fact that binary trans people are more accepted on this platform now than they were 2 years ago or 3 years ago or whatever means that we end up talking about xenogenders, and even that is a conversation that's considered. There's no way you could have talked about xenogenders when we were still arguing about binary trans people. There's no way you talk about xenogenders.
I feel like we're going round and round in fucking circles at this point. I mean, I've pretty solidly stated that I think that the reason we wouldn't have had that conversation is because everybody would have just been firmly on the side of like xenogenders, right?
What, when people were arguing about whether binary trans people are acceptable? I don't agree with that. I
don't think that was a broad argument within like left-wing Twitch Pol. Like the amount of shit that Lycan got just for sort of suggesting that trans women shouldn't be in women's sports, or like not even stating that they shouldn't be, but just like calling it into doubt or whatever. That started off a massive fucking drama arc, right? Like that's a pretty commonly debated position at this point. Yeah. So like, I just don't accept your sort of like characterization. I think this is like the Twitch Pol of 2 years ago just was straight up like Lycan's like, oh, I thought like there's like biological differences between men and women, right? And like, I don't know if hormones get rid of all of that, right? And he got absolutely fucking jumped on. Like, am I wrong about that? Did that not happen? Was that not the character of fucking Twitch, like lefty Twitch Pol at the time? It was, right? Like, that definitely happened. I remember that happening because then I had a whole fucking debate with Destiny about it because he jumped in to like defend his friend, and I slowly moved him along the.
Was that the panel with Lady Raincloud?
No, way before that. Who the fuck is Lady Raincloud anyway? Oh shit! Yeah, she did show up during that at some point. Yeah, that was a little.
Seems
while
like I know more about it than you do, Viv. Eh? I thought.
I was on that panel. Okay.
Yeah, and I watched
on that panel, and people to this day confuse me with Lady Raincloud because too fat trans. Am I right? But like, and I hate it because Lady Raincloud is fucking no. Okay.
But that, to me, that backs up my point, because we were talking about trans people in sports a couple of years ago, right? Now that isn't fully settled, but I think that there's probably more people now that think that trans people in sports are fine, to a certain degree. I don't know.
It was literally just Destiny pushing, like Destiny and Lycan like pushing back on it slightly, but like not to the degree of like, oh, they just shouldn't be included. It was literally just like, do hormones completely get rid of any advantage? And I tried to widen the conversation out to just like, why the fuck does it matter? But like, that was it, right? Like, and that was enough to get a really fucking strong reaction out of the Twitch politics space. If somebody asked that question nowadays, it'd probably make for a panel or whatever, but it wouldn't really bat an eye. Like,
right,
and,
but
and,
I
and
think
that's what I'm
there'd be
saying.
okay, but no, but there'd be more people now that would be supportive of the concept of trans people in sports, and we've now moved on to talk about xenogenders, right? So a couple of years ago, we were having the trans conversation in sports discussion, something which in the public sphere to normies is still very contentious.
Yeah, we're just looping now.
Well, no, this is the first time we're talking about the trans sports thing. What do you mean we're looping? You've brought this up.
Sorry, you brought up the xenogenders thing again. But carry on. Sorry,
just because I'm making a point doesn't mean I'm looping, right? What I'm saying to you, okay, is that a couple of years ago we were talking about trans people in sports, right? Nowadays, if you had a panel about trans people in sports, I would argue you'd find plenty of people that would argue that trans people in sports is fine, okay? And I think maybe 2 years ago you probably would have found more difficulty doing that, okay? But nowadays we're having discourse about xenogender, which is ahead of the public cut.
I just disagree. No. I think that the fact that one sort of vaguely century person questioning whether or not hormones fully removed all advantages that trans got like an insane fucking reaction, right? Shows that there were so many fucking people opposed to that opinion, right? Like, it was overwhelmingly the opinion of Twitch politics at the time that trans women should be included in women's sports. Fucking overwhelmingly, right? And just the mere suggestion that this could not be the case elicited that reaction. And I don't know how many times I have to say it with the xenogenders thing. I think if somebody had gone, yeah, fuck neo-pronouns, the reaction would have been exactly the same as it was for fucking Lycan saying that about it. Would have been even fucking stronger, because broadly, right, people were just like, no, use people's fucking pronouns, you dick, right? People were broadly extremely fucking supportive of trans rights, because we were doing charity stream after charity stream for fucking Trans Lifeline. We had more trans creators, right? We had more like actual sort of like further left creators as well, right?
Okay, but
we had a broad array of fucking
anarchists.
anarchists.
I've got a point.
Wait
a second. I've got a point 7 out here. I've got a point 7 out here, right? Some of these communities that were in the charity streams, Izzy Bear, Rokitansky, those fucking idiots, right? They all cannibalized each other, right? They all fucking. I used to be in those communities. I saw people get cancelled over fucking nothing all the fucking time. And then you had the Izzy Bear drama come out. These communities cannibalized themselves, okay? This narrative that people like to propose that trans people are getting pushed out of Twitch politics, they push themselves out by being fucking insufferable idiots, right? Being woker than thou dipshits, and then it turns out Izzy Bear is on the fucking take of these charity streams that the Source was doing for her, right? She was pocketing some of the money for Buffalo Wild Wings and ATVs. So what about that?
I mean, this is a wild fucking whataboutism. Because we now that I've managed to push you into a corner on the point that like Twitch Pol 2 years ago would not have tolerated some of these conversations, you want to move to the discussion about like whether or not some of those people were fucking shitty and probably shouldn't be on the platform. I agree with you. Some of those people were shitty and probably shouldn't be on the platform. Some of those people cannibalized themselves, but that does not change my argument that the character of the conversations that we're having have become more reactionary, not less reactionary, and that the xenogenders discourse is not an example of us becoming more progressive because we're willing to entertain the idea that xenogenders could be perfectly fine, right? But that it is an example of us becoming more reactionary because we are willing to entertain the idea that they could not be. And I don't know if you're like deliberately trying to do the whataboutism and move over different fucking topics or whatever.
No.
But
the point I'm making, okay, is that I'd say that maybe because I know there were lots of like kind of small trans creators that existed like a couple of years ago, right? And you know, they did somewhat set like the standard for discourse as it occurred on certain subjects. But my point is those people haven't kind of left as the space has got more reactionary. They've, you know, cannibalized themselves and eaten each other, and for whatever reason left the space, or they're languishing at 30 viewers or something like that. But even with that being said, there's like a new genre of trans creators that have come along. People like Demonmama, people like Josie Rose, people like Riverboat Jack, you know. You know, I'm sure I could name others. I need a bit more time to sort of think of it. But the point is, you know, now we're in a position where you can have a conversation about xenogenders and it's considered, right? And I think even with those trans creators that we had a little while ago, a conversation of xenogenders still wouldn't have been considered, and the overwhelming consensus of Twitch politics would have been that stupid fuck off.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we just fundamentally fucking disagree on that. Okay. I don't know how many times we can loop back to that point and me give examples and you dismiss them out of hand and say clearly Twitch was like more reactionary back then and wouldn't have even entertained the idea that xenogenders could be like perfectly fine. Like I feel like just the transport arc is enough to fucking evidence that like people were way more supportive of trans rights back then than they are now. They just wouldn't have entertained the xenogender discussion because they wouldn't have entertained the idea that like misgendering people was a fucking good thing to do, or that like people could be the wrong kind of trans or whatever.
I mean, yeah, like, if you went into fucking Izzy Bear, fucking Buffalo Wild Wings Izzy Bear's chat, and you you know, said, oh, neopronouns are bullshit, you'd probably get banned. But like, you know, let's say you were on a panel when you were talking to Destiny about, you know, the trans people in sports thing. I think if on that panel you said, hey, Destiny, what's your take of neopronouns, right? I'm pretty sure he would have had much the same take that he had today, right? Like, you know, so what I'm saying to you is like...
Didn't he literally just say that he'd changed his position on it? That he was no longer going to respect them? I don't know. What?
I mean, my understanding is like I don't know how much Destiny is considered like the neo-pronoun aspect, but I don't know if like he used to think they were based and now he's come to the decision of, oh yeah, they're bullshit, I'm not going to respect them. I think that he's always had some level of like not being interested in engaging with that or respecting those pronouns or whatever it is. I don't know Destiny's exact position, but my point is like, I think Destiny's kind of community has probably followed kind of like quite similar lines along this time. And even when he was doing the trans in sports debate, like I can't remember the exact nature of the conversation, but I don't think he was saying that trans people should be excluded from sports, was he?
No, he wasn't. That's what I mean. It was like huge fucking uproar that he was like suggesting some of the things that he was. And now it wouldn't bat an eyelid, and we can talk about, you know, we could easily have a fucking panel about like whether or not trans people should be in sport. It would be super easy to do that now. Yeah, I don't think it would bat an eye. I think people would just be like, yeah, this is a valid topic for discussion as to like whether we should just be barring trans people from sport entirely.
I completely disagree. I think if you had a panel about trans people in sport, you'd have way more people that would be supportive of the idea that trans people should be involved in sport. I think that the conversation that you had 2 years ago would not be repeated today, and you'd have more people pushing back and going, no, trans people should be allowed in sports in this space.
Okay. I mean, obviously we just fundamentally disagree on like what Twitch politics was like a couple of years ago.
Let's think of it like this then. What do you think Destiny's position would be now on trans people in sports?
What do I think Destiny's position would be?
Yeah.
I mean, I think I successfully argued him along the path that like it was nowhere near as much of an issue as he thought it might be at the time.
So now he's got a better position on it, do you think, these days?
I think probably, yeah. I don't know. I think if Vosh took a very pro-fucking transport position, he might be at risk of just saying no, get him out. But that's the way the drama mill rolls, right?
If these days Destiny has got a better perspective on trans people in sport, doesn't that go to my point rather than yours?
What, that Destiny has got like more progressive on the question of trans people in sport? Sure.
Yeah, and he's a big creator in the space. He sets discourse. He sets the standard of what's discussed.
Sure. I mean, I don't know what his opinion is on trans people in sport, but I think it's probably better it's at least better informed than it was back then, because jumped into the conversation not knowing an awful lot about it.
Well, that would suggest to me that, you know, if you had a panel now on trans people in sport, if like Destiny, who originally was arguing, you know, about the impact that puberty has on someone and stuff, and he's got a different position, and he'd be arguing more so for the case of, you know, more vociferously that trans people should be involved in sport, whatever that looks like, then that would suggest to me that the space is you know, less reactionary now, if like a big creator like Destiny has even changed his position on it.
So if Destiny has changed his position on one thing, right, and he's moved, like he was moved successfully, and I don't know this to be honest, right, but he was moved successfully towards the idea that like trans people being in sports not any kind of problem. Then that means that the whole space is like not more reactionary than it was a couple of years ago. I don't know.
Okay. So what?
Is that the argument?
No, sorry. Just Relly's messaging me because he wants to join and ask you something.
Oh, okay.
I think it's a quick question. I don't want to turn this into like a panel, okay? But he said he wants to ask you something quickly.
Okay.
Yeah. Obviously, you know. I think. Don't worry. I feel like the orbit of Ultron is starting to form. Okay. But don't worry. It's going to be okay. I'll step back. I'll step back. Yeah. I'll
just in the orbit of Ultron.
I'll step back and I'll just kind of like make sure that, like I said, I think he just wants to ask a quick question. Wait,
sure.
Sorry, give me a sec.